From very humble beginnings to stardom, these chefs have not only put their names on the spotlight in the culinary world, but constantly remind as many people as possible with similar little beginnings that it might be difficult, but it is not impossible. While he might be a renowned chef, restaurateur, New York Times best-selling author, and award-winning host for diners, drive-ins, and dives, it most definitely was a different story in the beginning. Guyfieri was born in Columbus, Ohio in the United States, but grew up in Ferndale, California. He fell in love with cooking by age 10, as he sold soft pretzels from a cart he had built with his father, which was called the Awesome Pretzel Cart. Talk about a love affair with food. By the time Guy was in high school, he knew that nothing would give him as much fulfillment as cooking would. But just having a passion for it didn't make it easy. He had to sell pretzels and wash dishes for the next 6 years. But in the end, Guy was finally able to go to his dream culinary school in Chantilly, France. In 2006, after some years of opening his own restaurant in North California, he won the popular television show called Next Food Network Star, and was later nominated for an award for his series, Guy's Big Bite, with more awards and recognitions rolling in since then. And it might sound like another fairy tale, but that 10-year-old with nothing but a cart and dreams has become a household name in the culinary world. Up next is Cho Yonsoon, famously known as the Netflix knife-cut noodle lady, a 58-year-old woman from Korea. Now, while a lot of people start out career paths because of passion or dreams, Yonsoon had a very different story. She took a step in the world of cooking because of a family difficulty. After her husband had lost his job unexpectedly, and her family was thrown into huge debt, Yonsoon had to start cooking kalguksu, also known as knife-cut noodles. Apparently, the situation was so bad that her in-laws were the ones to get her the stall in Gwangjang Market in 2007. But even though the odds seemed against her, Yonsoon was resilient and showed up every single day for over 10 years to cook. Eventually, after a decade of making amazing kalguksu, she was finally featured on Netflix on the show Street Food Asia Seoul. Just like a movie, she transitioned from a street seller to a celebrity. What's so inspiring isn't just her selflessness for her family, but the fact that by taking up responsibility, she has inspired her son, Lee So-hwan, to embrace his passion in the culinary world. But in all honesty, her story doesn't just inspire her family, but the whole world. You should see how many people from various parts of the world visit Seoul just to have a taste of the magical knife-cut noodles from an amazing mother and woman. At number 3 is Alexis Soyer. His story is not just one of clearly finding and walking in one's purpose, but the beauty of selfless living even after pitfalls. Alexis was born in Meaux, France, and was the youngest son of a family of 5 sons. Following the bitter incident of losing 2 sons before the birth of Alexis, his mother considered him a blessing and wanted him in church. Alexis' mother definitely wanted the best for him, but he knew where his passion lay, cooking, and he wasn't afraid to walk the path of purpose. His quest to make significant accomplishments in cooking made him serve for 5 years as an apprentice to a cook in Grignon at age 12. He was later employed by the Boulevard des Italiens, where he became the head chef of 12 men after about 3 years of working there. He went on to serve as a cook to elites, including Prince Polignac in 1830, the Duke of Cambridge in 1831, the Marquis of Waterford, and many others. He also specially made breakfast for 2,000 guests on the day of Queen Victoria's coronation in 1838. Later on, he opened Gore House as a restaurant in Kensington, but it didn't turn out as expected and ended up resulting in a loss of about 7,000 euros. A year later, he rode to the Crimea to help with cooking suggestions for the army there. That was the beginning of selfless impact, revising the diets and nutrition of hospitals in Scutari and Constantinople, cooking for the army, delivering lectures at the United Service Institution on proper cooking for the army and navy, and most importantly, building a model kitchen in the Wellington Barracks in London. At number 4 is Matty Matheson, a Canadian chef, restaurateur, and internet personality who also experienced hard times, suffering a heart attack unexpectedly. Matty was born in St. John, New Brunswick in Canada and grew up in Fort Erie. Unlike other chefs who either had a burning passion for cooking or had to do it to get by, Matty only took a cooking program because he wanted to leave Toronto, and only a cooking program accepted him. One of the reasons he wanted to move to somewhere new was because of his history of substance abuse. When he was in 11th grade, he tried cocaine for the first time. After his freshman year, which was associated with a lot of fights, negative behavior, and terrible grades, his school officials asked him not to return anymore. He eventually got into the cooking program in 2000 and fell in love with cooking, as he realized that handling knives and curating amazing meals from ingredients was a natural fit. And for the first time in years, he had decent grades while enjoying what he was doing. From that point on, his life took a turning point. In 2003, he started working at Le Select Bistro in Toronto. Then, he was hired by the restaurant La Palais. He also became an executive chef at Parts and Labor Restaurant until it shut down. He was later featured on an online show by Vice Media called Munchies. He collaborated with people to start up about 7 restaurants. His first restaurant was founded at age 21. He also competed in and won the Toronto episode of Burger Wars. Matheson's story would have been picture perfect, but he had a heart attack at age 29, which led him to put a complete stop to drugs and alcohol. Although his story isn't picture perfect, it is proof that you could rise from rock bottom. If a teenage boy stuck up in substance abuse could become a household name, then anyone else can too. Number 5 on this list is Maunika Gowardhan, an Indian chef whose story is one of effecting changes to misconceptions about traditional cuisines. Maunika Gowardhan grew up in Mumbai, India, and was influenced to start cooking by the colorful flavors, color, and traditional way of making meals that were made with lots of love and carry the identity of the Indian people. Her major challenge was that while she made delicious meals, she wanted to step into the global limelight without changing her cooking style as an Indian. But people weren't really interested as long as it wasn't English cuisine. But she persevered and dedicated over 20 years to making meals and showing that Indian meals, and in fact traditional meals, were as good as English meals. And her big break came with the release of her cookbook, Indian Kitchen. It brought her fame and opportunities that skyrocketed her journey. Her story reminds us that we can be the change we want to see, and that there are rewards that come with staying true and consistent. The list can't be complete without Anthony Bourdain, an American celebrity chef, author, and travel documentarian who died in 2018. Bourdain's cooking journey was like finding love in a place you didn't think you would. His passion for cooking resulted from tasting a fisherman's oyster when he was on vacation with his family to France. From then, he totally fell in love with cooking and attended Vassar, where he took up a cooking program. He went on to work in seafood restaurants in Massachusetts and Provincetown. His big break came when his short piece, which was supposed to be free for a New York paper named the New York Press. But after pushing it for weeks, Bourdain decided to send it to the New Yorker. And it became a bestseller, totally transforming his life overnight. Bourdain's challenge, though, was his mental health. And even after becoming very successful, he died in 2018, which was rumored to have been suicide. At number 7 is Gaston Acurio. We can use our cuisine as a weapon of change. Gaston's story is very similar to that of Maunika Gowardhan. Living in a time when respect and recognition were only accorded to English cuisines, Gaston was intentional about promoting Peruvian cuisines globally. He was born into a wealthy family in Lima, with his life already planned out for him. He was sent to Madrid to study law, but he rebelled and fled to France, where he became a chef. He then opened his own restaurant in 1994, known as Astrid y Gaston, named after his wife and himself. He started making Peruvian meals and was dedicated to promoting his country's traditional cuisines. Today, he owns over 30 restaurants, a handful of cookbooks to his name, and strings of awards and recognitions. His story teaches us that we can dictate the course of our lives and find fulfillment in our passion. Number 8 has to be David Chang, who is an Asian American chef. He struggled with low self-esteem, imposter syndrome, and psychological trauma as a result of wrong parenting. David didn't always know he'd be a chef, as he grew up playing golf and even won a number of awards. But somehow things turned sour, and he didn't feel good enough. Gradually, those who were better than him caught up with him and even defeated him. And because his father's love depended on his accomplishments, the more he failed, the more his esteem suffered. The depth of his challenge was so real that even when David eventually transitioned into cooking and was nominated twice in a row for the James Beard Award, he didn't go to the ceremony because he felt he wasn't good enough. Eventually, he was able to battle the demons from his teenage years and is doing very well today. From a young boy who suffered from self-esteem issues to a highly successful chef With restaurants around the world, David Chang's story is one that inspires hope and a better tomorrow. At number 9 is Gordon Ramsay, a Scottish chef who was exposed to a life of constant traveling as a result of his father's failures and violent behaviors, often caused by his alcoholism. His early life was full of neglect from his father and hard labor. He worked as a pot washer in a local Indian restaurant and had a dream of becoming a footballer. But after a serious knee injury at age 12, he had to bid that dream farewell. Left home at age 16. After having to stop playing football, he accidentally got into the world of cooking, as he initially wanted to study hotel management. Years later, he decided to focus on French cuisine. And in 1999, he starred in the British television miniseries called Boiling Point and rose to fame. He has gone on to open many restaurants in different countries and receive various awards. He is known as one of the only 3 people to win 3 Katie Awards. From the neglected son of an alcoholic to a globally recognized chef, his Grass to Grace story teaches the power of determination and persistence. Finally, at number 10 is the world-renowned chef, Bobby Flay. He's a celebrity chef, food writer, restaurateur, internet sensation, and a star on the Hollywood Hall of Fame. Flay was born in 1964 and discovered his talents at a very young age, as he asked for an Easy Bake Oven for Christmas when he was just 8 years old. At age 17, he dropped out of school and took jobs at restaurants, learning as much as he could. He later received a scholarship from Joe Allen, the proprietor of the restaurant, and finally went to the French Culinary Institute. From then, Flay went on to work as a sous chef in different restaurants, partnered with people to build restaurants, and also established a Bobby Flay Scholarship in 2003. Today, Flay has 5 dining franchises in 12 physical locations and a website in the United States, and has received tons of awards and recognitions. Man, know thyself is something to learn from Flay's story. He discovered his passion on time, sacrificed for it, and is now receiving the rewards today.